Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
Go behind the scenes of all your favorite Star Trek series, from the original series to today, with the stars, writers, producers, and more, every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And for more, subscribe at trekspertsplus.com.
It's the logical thing to do.
Keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
This is DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
I thought it was a classic femme fatale. So much fun.
I like that Shakespearean lace in your acting.
I said, Gene, what do you want from this character?
I want you to just take the character and make it your own.
I had a good time on the film.
On day one, the movie was already $15 million over budget.
We started this movie without an ending. That's like painting yourself into a corner.
I don't think we've ever had a Star Trek captain on our show.
Being, as you said, number one on the call sheet, it is a producer's position if you're going to take it seriously. I was so glad they didn't cast me as Lorca.
You famously wrote that script in 12 days.
On one level, I wrote the script, and on another level, the story was written by everybody and his brother.
Well, I was going to say, what was your response when you were directing and Terry, sort of called you aside and said, hey, I want you to get back in front of the camera again?
I said, he sort of chummed the water a little bit. Are you ready to play Riker? What I thought he was saying was, you better go to the gym and lose some weight. Times. Are you going to trim your beard? Don't cut your hair. My interest was totally piqued. It's not hyperbole to say it's the best Riker material I've ever had.
New episodes available every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. Or subscribe today at TrekspertsPlus.com. But keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves.
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
Definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious Treksperts. Ta-da!
We are.
Welcome to the 7th season premiere of Inglorious Treksperts. Yes, we're back for another season. It's so exciting.
We're back in outer space.
7 years of this insanity. And it shows no sign of stopping, still going strong. And we got a great show for you.
There's
no interviews.
No earthly way of knowing which direction we are going.
Indeed. We are here, and we thought it was only appropriate to celebrate for our 7th season, sevens in Star Trek. Yep, that's what you heard me right. We're going to celebrate every kind of 7 in Star Trek.
777, the magnificent 7.
777, the neighbor of the beast.
So many seasons and episodes and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to be talking about 7 of 9 and all kinds of good 7.
Well, don't spoil everything.
Well, that's the episode.
There we go.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, speaking of, before we dive in, couple of things I want to just address with our loyal listeners. First of all, we are going to be making some changes, implementing with this season. As you know, there's a lot of costs associated with producing the podcast. And so we want to encourage you to subscribe to Treksperts Plus. It's a chance for you to get commercial-free episodes, not only of Inglorious Treksperts, but also Deck 78. And what we're going to be doing is dropping those episodes a week early on Trekspert. So you can actually hear the commercial-free Treksperts a week before it debuts by subscribing. Deck 78, we will make select Deck 78 episodes available a month after they debut for Treksperts Plus subscribers. So we're sweetening the pot to make Treksperts Plus subscription even more enticing. And we're announcing that our first live watch party, or us doing commentary and you listening, will, as it's commonly known,
we talk through the movie.
Will premiere on our Discord channel on Sunday, October 6th at 3 p.m. PST. So you'll get an invitation if you're a Treksperts Plus subscriber to join us on Discord, or if you're a member of our Discord community. We're going to make that first one available to our Discord, our premier Discord community members, as well as our Treksperts Plus subscribers. And that'll be Sunday, October 6th at 3 p.m. PST. We'll be announcing the movie on our social channels. It's going to be something fun.
Though to be that person, I don't think it's PST. I think we're still in daylight savings time at that point.
Okay, whatever.
Because Pacific Standard Time.
3 o'clock in Los Angeles. I don't care what we call it. It's 3 o'clock where I'm going to be sitting.
We don't want to give anyone wrong information to give them cause to complain.
That's true. Especially me.
Especially Ashley, because Ashley doesn't know when it is.
That's right. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what day it is. I don't know where it is. All I know is we're going to be those guys that if you went to an actual movie theater, the last thing you want would be 3 a-holes sitting there and just blah, blah, blah through the movie. But you guys are actually, of your own volition, going to sit down and you're going to tune in for this.
And we are those a-holes.
Speaking of complaining, I just want to point out, we were extended an invitation to come to the Star Trek cruise at the beginning of the year, and Ashley and I turned down the invitation for a variety of reasons, work related, lack of wanting to be on the water related, a multitude of good reasons.
Fear of scooters.
Scooters. Anyway, suffice it to say, Ashley and I very nicely rejected their offer. So, but Darren was interested.
I embraced it with open arms
and full hearts. And then after Darren said I would be delighted to take you up on your generous offer to have us on the cruise, he was rebuffed.
I was rebuffed. I was reneged.
So I have to tell you, fuck the cruise. I don't like my good friend and Trekspert's partner, Darren, being rebuffed, or whatever you want to call it. I think he would have been a delightful addition, I'm sure, to this wonderful, he would have brought the stooping to this event.
I certainly would have brought the Roddenberry.
Exactly. Yeah. Sort of little Roddenberry, a little gopher.
I don't even have brought the little Roddenberry.
And anyway, I got to tell you, I'm disgusted. I'm really, you're very lucky to have Darren, deign to attend this event. And
it sickens me.
I'm disappointed. I don't necessarily take it personally, but I am disappointed because I was looking forward to it.
I would reject them 6 more times now.
Well, now we will.
Indeed.
I reject you in your general direction, eh?
And I couldn't have been nicer about it.
Especially for Mark.
I was like, thank you for this invitation. We really appreciate it. I said, Ashley and I are unable to attend, but Darren would be delighted. Whatever.
Of course, it's possible that they figured, well, if we're not getting all the Treksperts, screw them.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
I like to divide and conquer. I don't think we need to. I got to tell you the fact. I thought that in Vegas, I thought us sort of not doing all the panels together and sort of separating and doing different worked out great.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was the only way we could have done that, because we couldn't all do all the panels all the time.
We would have died, and things would have failed.
died, and we would not be here speaking to you right now.
No, and I think it actually works out great because, you know, a lot of these panels, sometimes I tend to monopolize the conversation, and when I'm not there, it's like you get to see how brilliant you know, Darren or Ashley are doing these panels. So it's like, I think that you know, it's great. It's great when we you know, we're stronger with you than without you, but I think that we also can do these individually, and it's a treat every time.
Well, the great thing is we all have strengths, and together we are strong, and separate we are strong. But you know,
and we are smart and make things go.
Well, that wasn't
some of us are smart.
That wasn't a seventh episode of a season. But yeah, we're going to talk about sevens today. Talk about great sevens in Star Trek, because we've been doing this for 7 years. That's what it's come to. We're doing great sevens in Star Trek.
It was the first thing that came to our mind.
Hey,
why don't we do one about sevens?
It's like, we're not going to do an interview show. Those sort of are easy, right? In retrospect, you know, it's like, well, we interviewed this person. We're going to talk about them a little, and then we're going to say some funny things at the end. But but this
we're
is
not,
like, okay.
We're not going to interview Jerry Ryan and just talk about 7 of 9. That's not going to happen.
No, this is not going to happen. Oh no, that's a good 7. That's starting us off. That's a good 7. Yeah. It was an interesting character that was introduced in Voyager's 4th season. Jerry Ryan was terrific. Her character has developed extremely well. Obviously, you know, where she ended up at the end of Picard season 3 was a really wonderful place for that character.
Captain 7 of 9 of the 7th Enterprise.
Oh, the 7th Enterprise. Wow, we need the count to help us out.
1, 2, 3.
7 of 9 of 7.
7 of 9 of 7.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that. What do you think of that iteration of the Enterprise?
I think it's great.
Yeah, holy crap.
We're never going to see it again, but I think it's great.
It was a great note to go out on, if that's how we're going out.
You know, I thought someone had said, and I don't disagree, that it felt like maybe the right thing to have called that ship at that point was the Picard.
No,
like that may have landed even more. I think it would have. I think it might be more interesting.
It needed to sum up everything that the show is trying to say, and I think it needed to be the Enterprise at the end. If it
in my humble opinion, we had too much Picard in Star Trek Picard.
I agree. Picard had his moment. This show, Star Trek has, I mean, it's funny because Star Trek has in some ways moved beyond being about the people on the Enterprise, but on some level, Star Trek is about the Enterprise, and there is something.
Star Trek is the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, Star Trek is bigger than any one character other than the Enterprise herself, pretty much. Star Trek can transcend any character other than the Enterprise.
No one's bigger than her captain.
And Kirk. No. But yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. I can't argue with that.
I'm not arguing that with you.
I'm not arguing. I mean, maybe if I was on the cruise with you, I would argue. No.
Right. Over mimosas.
Admiral Mimosa.
I don't get up. I don't do as we've
We're revered Admiral Mimosa.
As we've established on the show, I don't do breakfast. So there would be no mimosas for me.
No. Well, you're missing a whole third of your life.
That's right.
I'm happy to miss
a whole third of the Treksperts on experience.
I got no problem with that.
but we should start doing the breakfast addendum for our restaurant reviews.
Well, for example, we would always meet for breakfast at 7.
Yes, that's true.
Interesting. What do you guys have for breakfast, if I may ask?
Breakfast foods.
Breakfast.
No, like what's
eggs, bacon, sausage, sometimes a muffin, sometimes fruit, sometimes
shitloads of coffee.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
Ashley, I do. He lives on Drury Lane.
Okay. You know, I'll tell you something before we get to the Star Trek Sevens. I would be remiss if I didn't mention William Shatner's brilliant MTV parody of 7. In which he played not only
he played everyone.
He played everyone. He played Kevin
played us all.
Spacey. He played Brad Pitt. He played Morgan Freeman. He played the head in the box.
But he played them all as different characters that he's played in the past.
Yeah, Captain Kirk, C.J. Hooker, and of course the host of Rescue 911.
Right.
So brilliant.
But not his character from Barbary Coast, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just not a household word, unfortunately. People don't.
Or the guy in Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yeah. No. Or in Comanche.
That's right, White Comanche.
White Comanche. He could have played both those guys.
Yeah.
The evil one and the not so evil guy. I love that White Comanche. I mean, in the way I love Pretty Maids All in a Row. They're terrible movies. But
you appreciate crap.
I do.
I'm a lover of crap.
Yeah. But there are a couple, before we get into like 7th episodes and 7 seasons, you know, give me some 7s. We talked about 7 of 9. What are some other notable 7s in Star Trek?
Well, there's the Galileo 7.
Yes, that's right. Now, you pointed out, and this is so interesting, I always thought of the Galileo 7 as the number on the shuttlecraft.
No.
But as you rightly pointed out, 7...
It's the 7 passengers on the Galileo.
It's the 7 passengers on the Galileo, which is so interesting because
it's like the Chicago 7 or something like that.
Or the Magnificent 7.
Or the Magnificent 7, correct.
Or the Magnificent Ferengi.
Or 7 brides for 7 brothers.
That's right.
That's right. You know, Galileo 7 is such an interesting episode. I think it's kind of interesting because it's as close as the original Star Trek ever got to Lost in Space territory. And yet it's done so much better than any episode of Lost in Space.
At points it is. At points it is exactly like Lost in Space, unfortunately.
I think it's so creepy though.
Yeah. At certain points, until you see the guy lobbing the giant toothpicks.
Yeah.
But
then it kind of breaks down a little bit.
But I thought that they did you've all seen the photos of what that creature looked like.
Yeah,
and I thought it was like Jaws. I think they did a really good job of cutting around it where, you know, you don't really see that much of it, you know, and that made it kind of creepy and cool because...
I was going to say, it's extremely well written in terms of having Spock deal with his first command. That's That's the heart of it.
It's a BID. Well, you know what? It's like, what's the thing? It's like, I think this is why you're saying it's like Lost in Space, because on some level, conceptually, it's a B. But because of the things that specifically make it Star Trek, it elevates it, right? It elevates it to something that is asymptotic to an A. I don't know if I would give that episode fully an A, but I think it deserves at least a B plus, right?
Absolutely.
It's like ambitions are to make it far more than. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. I'll give you an A minus.
And you know, the performances of the secondary characters, especially Don Marshall as Mr. Boma, are excellent. And it really gives us the first chance to see someone pushing back at Spock and his decisions. I think it's great to test Spock's resourcefulness and his ability to command. And I think it's a wonderful thing for his character.
I think what elevates it from Lost in Space, I think there are two things. Well, 3 actually. One is 7 actually. No, 3. There's I think that wonderful scene where they want to have the funeral, even though it's really dangerous, and you know Spock, you know, kind of pushes back on all that. I think it's really great when they're inside the shuttlecraft and you don't really see the creature, but it's holding it down. There's a lot of suspense, like are they going to be able to get off the planet, you know? And of course that great scene at the end where Spock risks everything to ignite the fuel to send off a flare on a hunch, and he gets called out on it, you know, even though it was a desperate emotional decision. It works, and the fact that, you know, everyone kind of acknowledges like his act of desperation after he'd been a terrible captain the whole episode. So I think in that way it's a really great episode. Plus, I'm a sucker for the shuttlecraft. I love the shuttlecraft.
The shuttlecraft is great. It's
you know what you'd really like then? Metamorphosis.
You know, it's funny because I don't love Metamorphosis. I love the shuttlecraft in Metamorphosis. I think it's beautifully, and I've said this before, it's beautifully shot and directed by Ralph Sinesky. My problem with that is it's not about our characters. There's never a point where it really becomes about Kirk, Spock, or McCoy having to make a crucial decision.
Right.
It's really about Zephram Cochrane and the companion, Nancy Hedford. So I don't know. There's something about that episode that never really connected for me.
Well, also Zephram Cochrane's reaction when he learns that the companion is female is just completely ludicrous. I mean, he has shared consciousness with the companion. He should know all this stuff already. And it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, character-wise or plot-wise.
Yeah.
Well, how many of us have lived with a woman for 3 decades and still don't understand her at all? I mean, you know, I'm not naming any names or pointing any fingers at anybody, but it happens.
I only spent 1 decade, and that was enough.
Look, it's a very beautiful, beautifully told episode. I understand why people, Scott Mance, love the episode. It's just not in, you know, it's not something I consider a really special episode. I think, but again, I think, you know, there's some beautiful flourishes. Like Sinesky shot the hell out of it. You know, when they hold up the scarf and we see the companion through the scarf. I mean, there's so many nice directorial flourishes.
Absolutely.
You know, so in that sense, it's great. Other sevens, because before we get to episodes and seasons, I actually I came up with a few, but I'm curious to see what you guys might have.
Well, I'm gonna go out of the episodes right now and say that my favorite 7 was December 7th, 1979.
Bravo!
Wow.
That was not on my list. Bravo!
Of course, it was the premiere of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the rough cut, as we now call it. But it was a red letter day in Star Trek fandom because it was, you know, I talk about this forever ad nauseum, and anyone who knows me is sick of this by now, and probably most of the listeners are. But I will never stop talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture and holding up the banner high, 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 because it is a next step in the evolution of Star Trek. And we waited a long 10 years between the original series and the debut of the movie. And December 7th, a date that will live in infamy for other things as well, but also for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And that is one of my favorite 7s.
That is such a great pick. And honestly, it was not on my list. I didn't think of it. I should have.
Yes.
People. Yes, listen, yes, you should. That was such a special day. And it's interesting. You say, oh, maybe people are sick of hearing about it. I think only recently on the Apple Podcast reviews, someone pointed out, they said, you know, I love the show, but I just wish they'd do more on Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So it's like, I don't know what more we can really do on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but
other than
reshoot it, you know, like one frame at a time.
Yeah, right.
Like
other than act out all the chapters in the book. Oh, wait.
That could be coming during the 7th
could be coming
season.
Soon. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I think that would be great, because we also are trying to find things that lend themselves to the video versions, because thanks to our new producer, Brian Mix, we've been able to have the video versions as well. And we want stuff that's not just our ugly mugs looking back at you. So that'd be great. But yeah, that's a great pick. God, again, it's so hard to convey what that day was like for us. Just you know, following all the news of a Star Trek movie, and not you know, and then it was TV show, and then it was movie, and then you know, finally the fact that it was actually going to debut on movie screens, and knowing so little about it, you know, at that point.
Knowing so little about it, but also being given tenuous updates in Starlog magazine from not only David Gerald, but
Susan Sackett.
from Susan Sackett every month. And it was, we were being teased, and it was a great job because that's, no. Get your mind out of the gutter. For crying out loud.
It was
great.
That was a remarkable day. Obviously, having immortalized it in a feature film.
Right.
But
I'll be honest, I was as excited about the Happy Meal as I was about the movie.
Well, you were younger than us.
Yes, exactly. I was a baby.
Yeah. So I don't blame you for being excited about that.
But I love the Happy Meals too.
Who wouldn't? Yeah. I mean, I wanted to go to McDonald's just to get the Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Were there 7 different designs of the Happy Meals? No.
They made that look like such a different kind of movie, though. Because remember all the stuff. Remember you get from the fan club. They sent out these 4-page glossy newsletters, and it always had pictures of the aliens, from the rec deck, and it looked like there could be aliens from 1,000 worlds, and
they were just in one shot, and you couldn't see them very well.
It looked like really wow. This could be like the Rick Baker Cantina scene, and it's like. It wasn't that at all. No. But, I mean, I will say, and it's not revisionist history, that when I came out of Star Trek The Motion Picture, I loved that movie.
So did I.
Yeah, I love that movie. I loved it then. I love it now.
I loved that the movie existed. And I loved when it came on to, it was, I guess, ABC, Sunday Night at the Movies. I feel like there was I loved all that shit, man.
Yeah.
I love the idea of it. And I think my brain filled in a lot of stuff from the novelization. The shower scene was way different than I expected.
It's not really a novelization, it's a novel.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's a real novel. It's not just taking a script and
it's a memoir of my time in the 23rd century.
It's a real document of the things that actually happened, and we let Admiral Kirk go over the transcript and make any corrections he wanted, so it's all good.
I'll be the odd man out and say, look, I always loved what Star Trek: The Motion Picture
represented,
but it was not that. And I think to say that it was anything close to that, really, it in a way, I think it undercuts the incredible achievement of the director's edition. Which I think actually fully transforms that movie into what it wanted to be, and kind of realized it in a way that at the time I could not conceive that somebody would be able to do that. I don't think any of us would have.
I don't know if I agree with that. Actually, I think the director's edition is the next iteration. It's a much better version of the movie.
Much better.
But when I saw the film at the time, it still had that scope. It still had that epic feel. It still had that Jerry Goldsmith score. I'm thinking that this is a movie that's not finished. This was a movie that was spectacularly visual. Whether it be the visual effects, whether it be the dry dock, whether it be that opening scene with the Klingons. So I wasn't thinking, oh, one day there'll be a much better version of this.
No, certainly not. Well, I couldn't even imagine that there could be. It was just it was just not that great.
The truth is that Leonard Nimoy was right after seeing the premiere, and that it cut out the major story in the film. And that was Spock's transition from pure logic to integrating his human and Vulcan half. And he was very angry about that for many years, and rightfully so. And the special longer version showed us those excised scenes, but the director's edition really integrated everything together in a final fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why when we watched on the ABC Sunday Night Movie, as clumsy as that edit is, we already was like, oh, this is a better version of what we saw in theaters, at least at the time, watching it the way it was. But I would say I understand that. To play devil's advocate, I do agree. I mean, I think how do you cut that scene of Spock's tears on the bridge? But I do feel that that Spock in sickbay, when he talks to Kirk conveys much the same thing, and I could see why that scene was cut. I think it was a mistake to cut the tears for us scene, but I do get how you could argue that it's covering some of the ground that was already covered in sick bay.
No tears for V'ger.
I mean, that's so funny. Well, I have to say, Isaac and I went to go see it at the Fine Arts the other day as part of
at the 70 millimeter fest,
and oh my God, we just had the best time.
Oh, good.
He was like, I'm so glad you took me to see this on the big screen, because he already likes the movie a lot, but he just was absolutely blown away. He's like, this is so great. Everyone should see this. This is the way that everyone should see this movie. And
we could almost say that there's no comparison.
You could say that. You could say that. And it was riveting. And, it was interesting because, Ralph Winter introduced it. And of course he worked in post-production at the studio, but wasn't that, he wasn't a producer on the movie, but he gave a beautiful introduction to the film. Really nice. And he talked, he spoke a lot to the fact that, how it was being rushed to theaters, and, what it was like being at the studio at the time. Sitting, Alan Spencer talked a lot about with us in his episode of Inglorious Treksperts. But I thought Ralph's introduction was really good. In retrospect, I wish I had recorded it, because I think it would have been nice to play on the show. But we had the best time, and it was so great to see. It was the one time they didn't have a 70 millimeter. They showed the DCP of the director's edition, as they should, and it was it played beautifully. It looked great. It sounded great. It was a really great evening at the theater. And like I said, Isaac was just like so happy we went, and I texted Asbel. I'm like, where are you? He went to go see 4 and 5 on Sunday or whatever. I'm like, how could you? Why are you not at Motion Picture? It's like, come on, show love.
Well, he's young.
But yeah, that's a great pick. December 7th, 1979. I'm gonna pick one. That's a little outside the box, Ashley, if you don't mind.
Of course.
A Meteor 7.
There you go.
Meteor 7 from a taste, or a non-7 from A Taste of Armageddon. Of course, this is an episode we talk about a lot on the show. And this is a really underrated episode of the original Star Trek. It's so relevant. It talks, it was a statement about the Vietnam War, casualties walking into disintegration state, but it has some of the most powerful indictment of war, and just this amazing Shatner Kirk monologue about basically, I've given you back the horrors of real war. And but to me, Meteor 7, it's such a great sci-fi premise. It's what the original Star Trek did so well. It's early Gene Coon before the bag of tricks that he mined started to run a little empty. It's just remarkable and brilliantly written. Production values are not great, but this is why I really find, don't push back on anyone who's like, oh, the show's so dated. It's not. I mean, it was made in the 1960s. It was one of the most expensive shows of the era. It was so far beyond anything that was being done. And the fact that you can still show it today and not have it be unwatchable is a testament to the genius of what the show was. And, the writing is not only as good as anything today, it's better than pretty much anything today. And that's why Star Trek endures 58 years later, and why a Meteor 7 and a non-7 are my pick for the 7s.
Those are good. Those are good 7s. I like that a lot.
It's a real good pick.
What about you, Ash? I got one. If you don't
I
have
one. I do have one. And I had a different one I'll come back to, but I think that this particular 7 helps to carry me into 2 different Star Trek series that I love, because it appears in both of them. Deep Space Station K7.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
That's good.
I love being surprised. You guys totally normally I've gotten the show got very predictable. Like, this is a great way to start the season because I didn't see either of those coming. That's awesome.
Good.
I mean, come on, man. It's got Tribbles. It's got Captain Kirk. It's got Captain Sisko. It's got Dax. It's got Worf. It's got
Nils Barris.
It's got Nils Barris. I mean, and then there's a bar fight. I mean, come on, man. And it has like some of the most quotable lines from the original series that are just pure fun. It's
and if you ever want to drive David Gerald crazy, just walk past his table and just start quoting Tribbles incessantly.
Nice, but
it bugs him almost as much as Roddenberry's voice.
What if you quote it in Roddenberry's voice?
I want to just add, you talked about the dialogue and all the stuff and the stuff that transpires there. I want to talk about the space station itself.
Yeah,
that space station is freaking gorgeous. I don't know how many times you guys built it as a model kit as kids, but
at least twice.
Yeah,
twice. I love that space station, that design. It's so good. It's so cool.
It was based on a real sort of, if not a NASA, then a TRW design or something like that of a habitat that could be unfolded or inflated or something like that. And basically the pods from that, Matt Jeffries took and designed this space station around them. And it's really clever, and it's really, it looks very 60s, but in a great way. It's the 60s vision of the future. And I love that look.
Yeah, me too. Terrific choice. Really great choice. If I was throwing one more out, and this is probably a stretch, so far we had the Galileo 7, December 7th, 1979, K7. Another one I would say is 007, basically Alexander Siddig and Armand Bashir.
Okay. That's a little out of the box.
He's not playing James Bond, but he is. It was clearly James Bond, but they couldn't say it was James Bond.
And they didn't say it was James Bond.
They didn't, because they couldn't.
In my world, that's James Bond.
So can I give you 3 sevens that are just sort of strangely coincident?
Well, don't steal my 7.
Okay. A trinity of characters, all of whom have
that's 3.
7 well, they have 7 letters in their names. Jim Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy. 777. The 777s. We're back to that.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it, though?
What? I'm confused.
Jim Kirk,
I don't get that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mr. Spock, MRSPOCK, 7.
Oh.
Yeah. See?
Oh.
Isn't that cute?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And Dr. McCoy. Yeah. That's interesting.
Wow.
I never thought of it that way, and I never will again. That's the great about it.
That's the beauty of it.
And Spock, if you could pronounce his first name, is 7 too.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Gary 7.
Oh, you took
shit!
Gary's.
I'm sorry. I was like, suddenly I just got like I had like a aneurysm, and it just
got to keep going and going and going and talking and talking and running over everything. Thanks, Ashley. Yes,
I will be
Gary
7.
7. The man
this
with the
number. This is what it's like on the 4:30
name.
movie. This is what it's like on the 4:30 movie
It
being
is,
on Thursday.
actually.
Go ahead, Darren.
It's nowhere near as ugly on the 4:30 movie, because
sorry,
everyone
Darren.
has their own day, and none of us interfere.
No one interfere.
No one. Don't breathe. Don't think.
You're at attention.
Yes, my favorite spin-off that never was, Assignment Earth, featuring human Gary 7, raised by aliens, and he is the true 007. I mean, he is a secret agent, and he actually did things that 007 would have done if he had an amazing computer and Terry Garr for a pet.
Yeah.
It's I love it. I love it, and I love that our crew has very little to do with the episode, because it's a lot of fun. And look, Gary 7 and Roberta Lincoln are characters that I would have loved to have seen continue.
And Isis.
It's Doctor Who for smart people.
That's true.
It's Doctor Who for smart people, isn't it? Actually,
the same time
we're going to lose more listeners over
the
that.
Same time that episode was being produced and Gary 7 had his servo, Doctor Who was being shot, and Doctor Who had his sonic screwdriver at the same time. So it's Hodgkin's law of parallel development. So it's really great.
And Tom Servo was nowhere to be found.
Tom Servo was never to be seen again. But look, the gadgets in that are great. The Beta 5 computer is wonderful. I named my Patreon after Beta 5 Productions. So it's something that I love and have loved for years and years. And damn, I wanted to see more Gary 7.
It's so funny because every time, we go to the airport for one of these conventions, Darren parks his car here, so the driver can come pick us up. And it's so funny because
Let's not give that away, because that's kind of, something that can be traced.
But
okay. I have a representation of Beta 5 on my car.
And my son always says, God, he loves that Assignment Earth. So
I
yes,
do.
He does.
I do.
He does.
So much.
Yeah. Do you guys have any idea what our 7th episode of Inglorious Treksperts was?
No.
Wow. No, not at all. I don't even remember what our first episode of Inglorious Treksperts was.
Well, our first episode was called Leaving Dry Dock, and we discussed what we hope to accomplish with this podcast.
Did we hit any of those goals?
I don't know. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I can tell you what our 7th episode. I should listen to it. What our 7th episode of Inglorious Treksperts. Are you ready? You'll never guess.
In fact, let's play it right now.
Yeah, right now, ladies and gentlemen. What's Up, Ruck? Comedy in Star Trek with David A. Goodman.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
That was our 7th episode, the first season, where we talked about comedy in Star Trek. So it was a good episode, if I recall.
I seem
7
to remember
years
that.
ago.
It's funny because I
have
a secret Twitter account that is called Stand Up Ruck.
Oh, now it's not a secret, is it?
Well, no, it's fine.
Like your car license plate.
I haven't posted it in ages. But I used to put up goofy stand-up jokes as if Ruck were telling them. And I'm going to have to look back.
You're a real geek, aren't you, Darren?
You think?
With a lot of time on his hands,
I think so. In the 7th season,
no,
I just discovered.
I don't have a lot of time on my hands. I just don't sleep much.
Oh, okay. Cool. Me neither.
Oh, really?
As you can tell by our brand new Inglorious Treksperts backings behind each of us.
They're gorgeous. Thank you. Excellent
awesome.
job.
I was done at 1:30 this morning.
Well, they're terrific. And
I like that the green matches the green border that appears when your microphone is active.
It does a little bit, but
it's cool. I dig it.
People won't see that during the episode.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what?
It's all right.
Those people don't matter.
Everyone matters.
I don't think when I read about how to make your podcast even more successful, they don't say insult your audience. Never. That was never in any of the
and yet it's worked for us.
I was gonna say, isn't that that's what this podcast is about?
All about.
That's why we're aboard her.
Oh, well, that's not true. We love our listeners. We really do.
Oh,
we really do. How lucky we are.
Yeah, and they'll all be in Columbus, Ohio at GalaxyCon to say hello.
That's
cool. New cruelty policy in Columbus, Ohio.
You cannot have the duck.
Credit rating like that.
Before we get to 7th episodes of seasons,
yes.
What is the best 7th season of a Star Trek series? Best 7th season of a Star Trek series?
Deep Space Nine. Come on.
Well,
there are only 3 shows that had 7 seasons.
Yeah.
And TNG's 7th season was not great, with a couple of exceptions. Voyager's season 7 was a season of Voyager.
Oh my God.
I'm on a roll tonight. And then there's Deep Space Nine.
Well,
unfortunately, it's a Kaiser roll.
And Darren, do you agree with that?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not as much a devotee of Deep Space Nine as you two are, but I like it. But I think there are some things good to be said about TNG's 7th season too.
Not a lot. Having just rewatched it, it's really weak. Obviously
Goes out on an incredible high note.
Yeah. Lower Decks is fantastic.
Preemptive Strike.
Preemptive Strike's great. Obviously, All Good Things is phenomenal. Rascals is fun, as we've discussed in the past.
Yeah.
But there are some really bad episodes. Masks is that season.
Ooh.
Sub Rosa is that season. And then there's just a lot of forgettable episodes, like the one with Data's mother, and just like
it's not even meat and potatoes. It's just the potatoes, and nobody put anything on the potatoes.
The one where they clone Picard's son, give him a son that they cloned from his DNA so he could kill his son to get revenge against Picard. It's even dopier than Nemesis.
Nemesis? Yeah. Nemesis?
Not quite as dopey as
movie
Nemesis.
forbidden.
I mean, it's a weak. It's also the one that introduced the warp speed limits to the mythology.
That was stupid.
So it's not a good season. I will tell you, Ashley, I absolutely agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of the Deep Space Nine finale, and obviously the ubiquity of the paw race throughout the season. But pound for pound, they're more great episodes. Obviously, the introduction of Nicole DeBoer is sensational. The Take Me Out to the Holosuite, the Siege of AR, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Everything with the late, the wonderful Jimmy DAREN as Vic Fontaine, which really came into its own, even though it's introduced in the previous season, is amazing in the seventh season.
This final 7 episodes, my God. Remember the whole, that was a 7. It was the 7 episode arc at the end of that season. They were all continuous, which included one of my favorite moments from, I think it was Tacking Into the Wind, where Damar finally flips. And he gives that speech: resist today, resist tomorrow, resist until the last Dominion soldier is driven from our streets. It's just, oh yeah.
It's so funny you say that, because, look, I've said a million times in this podcast, I'm doing this watch with Isaac on Star Trek. And so we're in the 6th season now of Deep Space Nine, the 4th season, I think, of Voyager. And, every time a new character comes on, because he's a huge Garrick fan, but every time a new character comes on, I say, oh, this character's great. You're going to love this character. So when Damar is introduced, I said, oh, you're going to love Damar. And every week he says, is this the week I'm going to love Damar? When am I going to love Damar? when does Damar get cool? And I was like, don't worry, it's coming. I mean, I did the same thing with Wayoon, and then he dies in his first episode. He said, so that was the character that I'm going to love? And I'm like,
yeah. You have no idea.
So I said, just you wait. But, Voyager 7th season, I know there are people who love it. I'm not particularly even, I told you guys, it's like, I really made a point of wanting to really give Voyager a chance, because people love Voyager. And I'm like, I'm going to give it a chance with this marathon I'm doing with my son. And I'm excited to finally discover the joy of Voyager. And it's like, I still just don't like it. I just can't get into it. It's like, if anything, I like it less.
You're not finding the Joyager.
No. I mean, and then you have
Voyager. I don't even know her.
Yeah, and then Enterprise never went 7 seasons. Obviously, Discovery mercifully didn't go 7 seasons. Picard clearly didn't go 7 seasons.
Quick.
So let's talk about 7th episodes of seasons. So this is going to be interesting. Do you have any idea, because I have it right here, what the 7th season of TOS season 1 was?
The 7th episode.
7th episode of season 1.
I believe it was Mudd's Women.
You are correct,
the
sir.
Women.
You are
the
correct,
women.
Sir.
Dun,
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
It's funny, because my favorite episode of the 3 seasons, 7th episodes, is in the 3rd season. Because the 3 7th episodes are Mudd's Women, the 1st season. The 2nd season is Cat's Paw.
Oh.
And the 3rd season is Day of the Dove.
Oh, Day of the Dove.
Wow.
Definitely. Yeah.
We don't need any urging to hate humans.
We need no urging to hate humans. Only a fool fights in a burning house.
Out.
Our house. Sorry, I don't know.
Next year, if we do Vegas again, we're going to cut a music video.
Yeah, we
to
are.
Madness is Our House, and it's just going to be footage from Day of the Dove.
Or burning down the house, honestly.
I actually tried to put together, but I wasn't able to get the editor to do it in time. I wanted to do a montage of Best of Both Worlds to Van Halen's Best of Both Worlds.
Well,
just because I could.
You could have cut a montage of clips from all Star Trek to the 60s, the turbulent years from Nixon.
Well, that's funny you say that, because I was just going to say, I wonder if we could get Rob Burnett to update his beautiful work on Star Trek Eternal, which was, what Darren is alluding to, is this in 2007, I think, Rob cut this beautiful...
Was it that late?
He did it right before First Contact and updated it with First Contact stuff from the trailer for First Contact. So it was right around then. And so it was 1997, like 1997.
97, yeah, you said 2000.
Sorry, 1997, the year of Apollo's last deep space probe.
Yes.
And so, that was 87. But so Rob did this magnificent montage of clips from Star Trek to Nixon's John Williams, The Turbulent Years from the Nixon soundtrack. And it was remarkable. It's beautiful, but it's in low res. He had gotten the footage off laser discs.
Yeah.
And it's on YouTube, but it's hard to watch because it's not.
It's tiny.
It's tiny. Don't call me tiny. And so I strongly recommend. I'm hoping that one day. I've always hoped that Rob would update it one day with high def footage, and probably could add a little bit. Maybe not so much. Maybe a little bit.
Maybe take stuff out.
There's a lot of caretaker in there, and maybe add some stuff from Picard season 3, and it was just beautifully done. And I really would love to see it. It was so beautifully done that Rob ended up getting Paramount to buy it from him to use it at trade shows, and they used it, and I believe it might have even been used at the Star Trek Experience. It was,
and it was the impetus to hire him for doing the editing of source material at the Star Trek Experience.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was his. That
was his calling card.
His calling card. Yeah. Beautifully done. It gave me the chills every time I watched it, and it really captured what we love about Star Trek. Okay, so animated series. Any idea what the 7th episode of the animated series
I know
was?
Exactly what it is.
What
Walter
is it?
Koenig's The Infinite Vulcan.
That's right. It was Walter Koenig's The Infinite Vulcan.
Perhaps one of the most ludicrous episodes of the animated show ever.
But he was really big. Not as big as her captain. Literally big.
He was
He
gigantic.
could have fought Godzilla. That would have been awesome. Spock versus Godzilla? Are you kidding me? I am
Kaiju
so
Spock.
there. Right? Like
Spockzilla.
Spock gets in and he gives Godzilla the Vulcan neck pinch. Godzilla just he crashes down, and that would be amazing.
Well,
in the legendary verse.
The interesting thing is that because the actors didn't record stuff together at that point in the season, I think they only recorded the first episode together in studio. But you see the main adversary in the episode is a character called Stavros Caniclius 5, right? And
not 7.
There are at least 3 different pronunciations of that name given by various characters. I mean, it's not quite so bad as someone saying Turan, but I think Jimmy Doohan, who plays Caniclius, pronounces it one way, and Shatner pronounces it Caniculus, something like that. But it's just one of those things that they weren't together, and the director wasn't paying attention, and everyone's going left and right when they should have gone forward, and it's crazy. But that is a nutso episode.
I don't need you to tell me I said caniculus when I should have said canaculus.
I know. Yeah.
Jimmy's very upset. He didn't do it the way I told him to do it.
It's sick.
He was trying to ruin my entire day. He didn't let me get promoted either.
Yeah, it's not a great episode. And of course, there's no 7th episode of the 2nd season
No.
because it was a much too short a season.
It was too short a season.
So that was not to be. But yeah, the Infinite Vulcan is not a great episode of the animated series. Okay, so we get to first season of Next Gen. Well, there are a bunch of seven seasons, 7 episodes. So
7 writers.
You guys want to pick maybe what your favorite 7th episode of a Next Generation season is?
I don't know any of them. So
Okay.
Well, let's look at the list. There's got to be a list. Oh, easy. Well, yeah, it is easy. It's
I don't know if it is easy. You tell me.
I think it is. I think for the Next Generation, the best 7th episode probably came in season 3 with The Enemy.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
Or, kind of set your way back machine. That is where Worf says, hell no, I am absolutely positively not going to help you save this stupid Romulan.
Unless you give me a lollipop. If you give me a
damn
lollipop, then I will give blood. But I need something for giving blood. And they didn't offer him anything. They said it's a question of honor. He's like, no, I'm not giving the Romulan blood. You give him maybe a little sticker. I gave blood today to the Romulans. Maybe then he would have done it.
Stickers have honor.
It's a great episode. And you know what? It was maybe, I don't know if it was the first time, but I think it was one of the best early expressions of Worf as a character who was not going to play by the exact same rules that everybody was playing by, that he had a very particular point of view and he stuck to it. And what made it great Star Trek was that dealing with Worf's his cultural objection to helping the Romulan, right, was a key to resolving the problem of the episode. It wasn't just, well, Worf doesn't want to do it. It's that it's because of who Worf is.
What are his rights as a
exactly
being?
And what are his values, and how do you appreciate that? How do you get into his head and help him to and understand what makes him tick? And what are the buttons that you need to push to kind of get to the ending that you need to get to? And it's just Worf buttons. So it's really smart. It's a great episode. I think maybe the runner-up is probably Rascals from season 6, which is super fun.
Yeah, I got to say, obviously Ron Moore deservedly gets kudos for having more to do with defining the Klingons than any other writer since Gene Kuhn, right? Yeah. But the Enemy, which was, I don't believe was Ron, I think it was Michael, or at least Michael did the final rewrite, probably does more to define Worf as a character than any episode up until that point. I mean, that kind of locks in who Worf is. It's really, it's great. I mean, it's basically Enemy. It starts as Enemy Mine with Geordi and Romulan, but then it really becomes a Worf episode, and it is it's terrific and unexpected because TNG was not that kind of show, and then suddenly it became that show, and it's a terrific episode. It still works today, and they were worried it would be character assassination for Worf, and it was the opposite. It finally handed him a character that was unique and different than just angry and shooting phasers at view screens.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say, well, it's hard to argue with The Enemy. I'll tell you, it definitely is an unnatural selection.
No.
Where Pulaski gets older. I won't say old because she gets older. But, look, as bad as the Unification two-parter was, which brought back Leonard Nimoy, it's funny, Unification Part 1 was season 5, 7th episode. It is much better than Part 2.
Absolutely.
Because they don't assassinate Leonard's character of Spock. And he has the best line in that two-parter.
Indeed. You have found him.
It's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
But that's actually quite a good episode, which tees up the whole Romulan unification. I like that quite a bit.
Plus, it has Malachi Throne in it.
Well, it has Malachi Throne, who we last saw as Commodore Mendez in The Menagerie, or in My Office, telling us he wasn't going to do Free Enterprise because he didn't want to play a sleazy character.
Like False Face.
Like False Face, yeah. The other really great episode is the 7th episode of season 4, which is Reunion, which marked the beginning. Kalar comes back, and we find out that Worf has a son.
Look
and
upon
that
death
he
and always remember.
Will turn out to be the worst dad in the history of fatherhood.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Worf and Kalar story and the whole Alexander thing. I think that took away from some of his interest for me as a character. I know people love it. But I'm not one of them.
The context of the episode, and maybe I don't think I'm misremembering that. Spoiler alert: that was the episode where Kalar dies. There was something about that moment that I thought was incredibly powerful. I mean, the mistake of the episode was kind of keeping Alexander around. Like, but Worf, there's a phrase that sometimes gets used in writers' rooms. Mark, I don't know if you've heard it before, where you give the character a kitten, right? Yeah. You have the sort of the gruff character, and you give them a kitten, and suddenly everybody likes him again. Well, the truth of the matter is, Worf had a kitten. It was the rest of the crew of the Starship Enterprise. But the incident in the episode, what that meant, right? There was something that was very powerful about the climax of that episode. And I think if
there has been an incident,
yeah, on Praxis, but that was different.
An incident.
Look, I really like the episode. I don't like Alexander; they're not so great. But then they did some interesting things with him on Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
I like it a lot better than DAREN. I think it's a good episode. I think an episode we can all agree was not a great seven was 7 seasons, and this goes back to why we say Next Generation season 7 is not good. The absolutely dreadful dark page where Deanna Troi has to go into the mind of her mother. God, could you imagine having to go into the mind of your mother?
Jesus, no.
And, it's
only memories of seeing The Hunger.
It's funny. It's not good. It's not good. Not a good episode, and it just is typical of sort of the creative failures of the.
It's a dark page in the history of Next Generation.
It's a dark page, and speaking of sevens, what comes after the Undiscovered Country? Star Trek VI.
Generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
And that happened.
Not a notable 7, but in terms of Deep Space Nine, there's a bunch of strong 7s. Ashley, do you have one that's particularly your favorite of the 7 episodes and 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine?
Man, it's actually a tough call because of the episodes that are on that list. Nothing is really less than meat and potatoes. I want to say, man, it's tough, but I think I'm going to give the edge to the 7th season, 7th episode, Once More Unto the Breach, which deals with Core and kind of the final disposition of a great warrior. And I think it's just
great warrior. Wars not make one great.
Yeah, it does. Shut up. No, it's a terrific episode, and it's everything that you love about the Klingons. It's everything that you love about the Klingons, particularly on Deep Space Nine, where they are. I think they actually got much better treatment on Deep Space Nine in some ways than they got on the Next Generation, simply because you got to see them in action as allies and not simply presented as a problem all the time. They were challenging, but who they were and their culture mattered, and we got to see them in kind of a different way. And with Core, it was, here's like this guy's last ride, and it was awesome. And John Cleese was just great. And I mean, it's I don't know. I don't have anything about it. There's nothing about it that doesn't make me go, yeah. In fact, I want to go watch it again now that I'm thinking about it.
It's funny, you saying all that about the Klingons makes me think. I did the same thing with Isaac. I did when I said about Damar. I said, "Oh, Martog's a great character," and then he's killed, and he's like,
"Dad, what are you talking about?"
Yeah. So, but I was validated. My opinion was that now he loves Martog as he should. That probably would have been my pick, but I'll go with I'm going to go with You're Cordially Invited, which is the wedding episode, which I think is great. Terry's terrific in it. Michael's great in it. Has a great premise. It's fun. It's dramatic. It has a lot going on. And it coming after Sacrifice of Angels, it could have easily been a complete dud, because you go from the highs and the operatic, war, one of the great episodes of Deep Space Nine ever, to a much quieter episode. But I think it totally works. And it's where they start to plant the seed that Quark is in love with Dax, but he can't really, do anything about it. It's really great. There are a couple episodes that are underrated, though. 7th episodes. The producers always said, "Oh, we never brought Q back to Deep Space Nine because it was a dud." I like Q-less. I actually like Sisko and Q together.
You punched me. Picard never punched me.
Yeah, but I like Sisko with anybody. I mean, the one thing during my rewatch that's clear is, like, we totally, when we did our holiday list, and I think it was Kirk and then Sisko is the best Star Trek captors. Captain's best Star Trek characters. We were 100% right. I mean, Sisko is nipping at Kirk's heels. I mean, he's so great. He's so great.
He is totally the man.
Well, and they did meet, so
they did.
Understandable.
They did meet
on Deep Space Station K7.
Someone he could be friends with. Season 3 Civil Defense is good, solid meat and potatoes episode.
Yep.
As is Starship Down Season 4.
Yep. Good submarine warfare episode. Yep.
Great. It's no Balance of Terror, but it's really good. And then, look, people hate Let He Is Without Sin. I think that's because of the Worf thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's such a bad episode. I think it's an interesting episode. Again, it came after Trials and Tribulations, so it's a huge letdown after that.
Yeah.
But the fact that Worf actually sides with the terrorists, it does not service his character well. But there are some interesting ideas there. Yeah. And to me, it's like a better episode than Captain's Holiday if we're going to go to Risa.
Yeah, that's for sure. Although, I mean, certainly there are things about going to Risa that recommend Risa episodes inherently. But they have nothing to do with the story. It's about production value. I would like to point out that the 7th episode of season 2 was Rules of Acquisition, and there is a 7th rule of acquisition. The 7th rule of acquisition is: hear all, trust nothing. It's always good business to know about new customers before they walk in your door. New customers are like razor-toothed gree worms. They can be succulent, but sometimes they bite back.
One of the rules of acquisition that could have used a little editing.
Yeah. But it wasn't Nog. It was whose speech was it?
They can be succulent, but
Rom?
Yeah, thank you. It was Rom. They bite back. Yeah.
I will tell you that something that's come out on my Deep Space Nine rewatch, it's like the whole thing about, the even movies are good, the odd movies are bad. That's totally wrong. This whole idea that all the Ferengi episodes of Deep Space Nine are not good is wrong. Like, there's some really, really good Ferengi episodes. They're not all good. Some of them are duds, but there are some great Ferengi episodes. And I just rewatched The Magnificent Ferengi, and I liked it quite a bit.
Yep.
And there's not 7 of them in there.
Although Iggy Pop is in it, he's not particularly good.
No.
But sometimes you just gotta.
I give him a 7.
Sometimes you just because you have an opportunity to cast somebody that you love, you do it.
Yep.
Even if they're not great.
That's right.
And that was Ira Bear. It's like, I can cast Iggy Pop. I'm casting Iggy Pop.
I realize this is probably not an original thought by any stretch of the imagination, but it suddenly I don't know what made me come to this conclusion. But Salome Jens, right? So she plays the founder, right? She's the main founder.
And she's the main founder.
Okay, but you know what else she was in?
Yeah, Seconds.
And this is just in Seconds, right? It's like that was conscious on Ira's part, wasn't it?
No, because she had already been in The Chase, playing a very similar type of role. So I think it was probably a Junie Lowry thing. But we should find out.
Yeah, because it would be interesting, because in Seconds, of course, it's all about changing your identity in your life and all that other stuff. And I thought, well, that sort of seems like the kind of wacky thing that Ira would go,
we should find out.
Let's try that. Let's do that.
We should put some questions together to Ira like that and just say, can you answer all these questions for us? And we'll talk about it on the show. I have to say, I really thought he and Ron and Robert were really good in our Ahmed Bashir panel the Spy Hearts did in
Mhm.
Vegas. Because I listened to that episode. I thought it was really good. And Iris said something I never heard before, and maybe he said it, but he said, had there been an eighth episode, not eighth season, not that there ever was going to be one. And I'm not teeing up our eighth season by saying this, because there's no way we could do this for eighth season, like best eighth episodes, eights and starting. You know, maybe we could
Jupiter
do it
8.
for Schoolhouse Rock or something. But so Iris said, once the Dominion War was over, you couldn't really top that. So they would have dealt with Section 31 and dealt with the threat from within, and it would have been about Section 31. I think that was really interesting.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
the direction
And they would have done it
gone.
the smart way.
Yeah,
You were one badass bitch.
Let's not go there. Let's go to Voyager. So
Yep,
Voyager, 7th, the season 1, ex post facto, Tuvok plays detective. Not great. There's some really bad 7th episodes. Sacred Ground, just terrible cast episode. I like Scientific Method. It's not awful. It's basically sort of like Schisms was on Next Gen. Bizarre, basically all the sadistic stuff being done by aliens to our crew. I guess it's kind of a little like that second season episode also, where Silence Has Lease. It's not great.
Written by Jack B. Sowards.
Then you get into Infinite Regress, which is just a multiple personality episode for 7. Dragon's Teeth is the 6th episode, where
sixth season.
Yeah, and they end on a planet which is they find the stasis chamber, and then Body and Soul was 7th season, 7th episode, where the Doctor has been destroyed by those photon hating humans, and 7 becomes the host for the Doctor. That's probably the best of these, and that's damning it with faint praise. There's none of these that I really like that much.
I do hate photons, so.
So for me, it's either Scientific Method or Body and Soul.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. So, but Enterprise is a little easier because we only have 4 seasons. So, first season you had the Andorian incident, which is a wonderful episode from our good friend Fred Decker. It's a good episode. Again, it's acquired taste. You like the fact that the Vulcans are kind of engaging in this skullduggery, and there's a lot of racism between the Vulcans and the Andorians. So if you buy into it, second season was the 7th. Where
that's a bit of a lame title for the 7th episode of the second season.
Man, that City on the Edge of Forever, Requiem for Methuselah. It's not 7th episode is the 7th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
they were really running out of ideas. They couldn't even come up with episode titles. In the 3rd season, you're in the middle of the Xindi arc, with the shipment,
if City on the Edge of Forever was an Enterprise episode, it would have been called The Time Donut.
The time, yeah, right? Exactly.
Jeremy Bearimy.
And I by far for me, the best 7th episode of Voyager is in the 4th season, The Forge, written by the Reeve Stevens, which is kind of brings back T'Pau, in a very bizarre casting choice.
Not the singing group.
No,
that would be cool though. I'd watch that.
But it's a Vulcan splinter group that T'Pau finds out her mother is part of this group, and she goes to a place on Vulcan called the Forge. But they have a Sailot in it, if I remember, and there's a couple of cool homages to yesteryear and
a lot of member berries.
A lot. It truly was member berries, but it's a good episode. It was part of a 3-episode arc as Enterprise was doing that 4th season a lot of, and I like it. I liked it. What about you guys? Any feelings about Enterprise that season?
None at all.
Favorite 7th.
I had checked out by then. I'm gonna just say it.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, look, I'm not going to even subject you to Discovery 7th episodes. I've said before, I don't hate magic to make the sanest man go mad. That was the Harry Mudd episode with the time loop in this first season of Discovery. They had the audacity in the third season to call their 7th episode Unification 3.
Jesus.
Which just pisses me off.
Yeah.
But did anybody actually even watch Unification?
If I did, I've forgotten it.
There have been 4 seasons now of Lower Decks. Do you have a favorite?
Wait. Before we get to, I think that we do have to give a special shout out to Discovery Season 5, Episode 7, Erga, which I think is the sound that you make when you realize that you're watching the 7th episode of Discovery in its 5th season. I'm gonna for Lower Decks, I think I'm gonna give the nod to the 7th episode of Season 2, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, because it is the first appearance by Jeffrey Combs as Agamus, the evil computer who kind of comes back again and again. Later falls in love with Peanut Hamper, the exocomp. Long story, but she's pretty great. Actually, she appears in the 7th episode of the 3rd season, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. So those two kids are going to get together. But look, anytime Jeff Combs is playing the bad guy, I'm in.
Well, as featured in some trivia questions from Rafe Needleman.
Yes, that's true.
You can never go wrong with Jeff Combs. That's for sure. Now, Picard, I
when
don't
we're
think
recording this, today is Jeff Combs' birthday.
Is it?
Oh, happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Wow. We should all send him birthday greetings from the
Send
Trekspert.
him a disembodied head.
Yeah, that's
See?
right.
Little
reanimator joke there.
That's correct.
Yeah, love that reanimator. So Picard, I don't think this is going to come as anyone's surprise. I think we can all agree Dominion in the 3rd season
was
the episode.
Hands down.
Yeah. And of course, this followed up Nepenthe, which is an episode a lot of people liked in the 1st season of Picard because it involved the return of Riker and Troy, where we
I think that's why they liked it, because they got to see, they got member berries.
Denise would have loved it.
Yeah.
Because there was pizza.
Because there was pizza.
You know what?
Back.
Props to Terry Matalas for taking the silliness of that setup of Nepenthe and just spinning it into gold in the 3rd season of Picard. Like that basically, like neither one of us really wanted to be living in that stupid place they found us in the 1st season. But here is the deeply emotional reason why we were there and why we couldn't escape from it. And I think that was just brilliant.
I'll take that and plus, because I totally agree with that. And I have to say in Nepenthe, I was deeply offended by the fact that they had killed their kid, that, that, by some illness had taken, and that they, were dealing with this and not
Android-based illness,
addressing it in interesting, some Android-based illness. And Terry, to his, credit, takes it and makes it truly moving. Of course, that led to one of my favorite episodes of the season. What was it, 18 seconds or whatever, where he talks about, finding out that, his child is going to die, right? Yeah. And he's trapped in the time it took for him to go from the bridge to sickbay in the turbolift. It's really heartfelt and potent and beautifully done. And basically Terry and his writing staff really made a silk purse out of a sow's ear with that storyline. Yeah. And then the less said about Picard season 2, this is Picard's Masks. This was an episode called Monsters, where Talon goes into Picard's mind, who's in a coma, suffering from a monster that turns out to be his abusive dad, and discovering that his mother has committed suicide. I don't know what show this is. It ain't Star Trek. And meanwhile, Seven and Raffi are off doing nonsense with Alison Pill, who's discovered she's not on the newsroom. Instead, she's turning into a Borg or something. I don't even want to.
Makes no sense.
We celebrate the love here on.
Yes.
I want to go down that rabbit hole. And of course, Strange New Worlds has only had 2 seasons. They've had 2 7th episodes. The Serene Squall, which was the pirate episode, their Gambit.
You know what? Gambit was better.
Yeah, Gambit was much better.
much better.
and then there was last season's very popular with the fans.
The crossover episode, yeah.
Those old scientists, and I will say that obviously Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid.
It's a novel concept. They translate it from animation to live action extremely well. And for people who are fans, I could see why they embrace the episode so much.
Yeah, I just think it went the wrong direction. But that's just me.
Are you saying they should have been all animated?
Yeah, I think that the Strange New World cast should have. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like that's how that episode should have played out, because I don't know that it necessarily worked to have them play the characters as they are. Like the heightened characters in the context of Lower Decks works great, because underneath it there is seriousness. There are these legit Star Trek stories that are being told, and one of the genius things about Lower Decks is when it's really firing on all thrusters, it can be very affecting. There's actual like pathos and there's actual gravity to it. And when they move them into the live action world of Strange New Worlds, they gave them the physical 3 dimensions, but they didn't carry the rest of the dimensionality of that animated series into it. And so it was just fun. There were some great bits. But
were you talking about Captain Archer's dog, Pathos? Oh no, that's
Porthos.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like Blue's Clues, only different.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because this falls in, and we've talked about this, into my feeling. This is where everybody gets a trophy aspect of modern Trek. That apparently everyone's an admiral, so like everyone is thinks that every character who ever walked the deck of the Enterprise, over 100 years later, is revered as someone of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting Chekhov, or I can't believe I'm.
Oh my God, it's Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I actually would be pretty psyched if I traveled through time and met Mr. Leslie. What are the odds?
Yeah. How about that, Kyle, Mr. Kyle? The way you operated those computer. Yeoman cult. I mean, it's just like, it's like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, how many people can we name from 100 years ago that are it just seems so.
Only one, D.W. Griffith.
I mean, it just just such a strange choice, because again, they're making a show about Star Trek, not a show in the world of Star Trek.
Yeah.
The show has become so meta that and it all goes back to that line in First Contact. What do we use? Some kinds of explorers and some kind of Star Trek. And ever since, it feels like these shows and these movies are more and more about like about Star Trek as opposed to about living in the Star Trek universe.
Well, that's why they call it Strange New Choices.
So anyway, and of course, so really interesting choices for these shows. Number 7, 7th episode, 7 seasons, Galileo 7s, December 7th. It's like so many great,
so many sevens.
And much like the highs and lows of 7 seasons, we'll bring you that and more here on Inglorious Treksperts, where we'll deliver the highs of season 7s, the lows of season 7s. It's all here on the Treksperts. And we got some really special plans as we embark on yet another new season. And hopefully we'll be bringing you some remarkable guests and a few insights and much more, and a few surprises as we begin our all new season, which you can now watch or experience in many more ways. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch the video episodes on Spotify if you're a Trekspert Plus subscriber, or you can watch the audio episodes. I mean, listen to audio episodes. So many different ways to experience the Treksperts, or you can join the conversation on Discord or on your favorite social media channel. So there's a lot of talking Trek.
Some of you may like to watch it on YouTube and close your eyes. That's fine too.
That's right. Close your eyes, Marion.
Don't look at it. Oh my gosh. We watched Air Force One on Saturday night. Still
Get
a fun
off
movie.
my plane.
Yeah. Still.
Came onto my plane. He had a mechanical arm.
No, he
You
didn't.
know?
That's not how it worked. I don't care. So anyway, but
Well, this was a fun way to open up year
I
7.
hope
Sure
so.
is.
We'll let the audience tell us.
Yeah.
No,
But it was a lot of fun, and of course, the Inglorious Live Tour continues. We'll be in Columbus, Ohio, in December at another fine GalaxyCon. So if you want more information on that, check out galaxycon.com. And we got some big announcements for our travels in 2025, which do not include DAREN on the cruise, apparently. But so much
the better.
So much better stuff, because we're going to be doing a bunch of Galaxy Cons, and who knows, maybe we'll have a big announcement about a little place in Nevada at some point.
Who knows? We'll
see. We'll see. That hasn't.
If it is indeed life from lifelessness,
we must return to this place again, perhaps. So anyway, we're very excited to be sharing our 7th season with you. Thanks for sticking it out. We can't believe you're still here listening to the Treksperts. It's been a hell of a ride. And one of the delights, I think, has been the fact that we've gotten to spend so much time on the road, meeting so many of our listeners, whether it be in Ticonderoga, many of the fine Galaxy Cons, obviously in Las Vegas. And as we said, the Inglorious Live Fun continues in 2025. So stay tuned for more details about that. And don't miss, coming on Sunday, October 6th at 3 p.m., we're going to be doing a live watch of a TBD movie. You don't want to miss it by joining us on the Discord channel. If you don't know how to get on Discord, you want to go to the show notes, which will give you a link, and you can sign up for Discord. That's entirely free, although we encourage you to subscribe to Trekspert Plus on Spotify at trekspertsplus.com. Go to trekspertsplus.com. You can sign up there and listen to all our new episodes before anyone on Spotify, or you can sign up through the 430 movie and listen to it that way as well.
On Apple Podcasts.
On Apple Podcasts, yeah. So I guess that's really about it, guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess that's we got to call it an end to the 7s right now.
Mm-hmm.
The 37s. God, that was a bad episode of Voyager. Remember that, Amelia Earhart?
Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
No. But I guess it's 37. Earhart. It's not really the 7s. It's 37.
It's not the 7s at all.
We drained 7 phases, and they still came. Nope. That's not it.
Nope.
That's 7, not 7 phasers. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And on that note, I want to thank everybody for once again joining us here on Inglorious Treksperts. You can follow us on social, Inglorious Trek. You follow us on Facebook, on Threads, on X, Twitter, on Discord, and just everywhere. We're everywhere. We're on street corners with sandwich signs. But until next week, on behalf of Ashley Edward Miller, DAREN DOCHTERMAN, myself, Mark A. Altman, keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course, and we'll see you next Thursday.